Hunt for the Fallen Star, Chapter 12, Orbiting a Moon. Groans filtered into Casey's ears. His eyes opened, and he sat up, the seat back rising while the footrest dropped. He felt invigorated, energized. Next to him, the floating star image still orbited a green-brown moon. Several hundred other objects, most displayed as amber, now orbited the 3D moon and planet. A couple of faint red dots were being tracked, circling the opposite side of the planet. "Oh, what galaxy did we hit?" moaned James, massaging his forehead as he sat up. "That felt like I was squished into my seat and then thrust into a gelatin mold so I couldn't move." "It felt like I was ripped apart," muttered Heather, her voice weak, "and then sucked into some psychedelic dream." She shook her head. "Casey, whatever you did, let's not do it again." Behind, James and Layla, who was still reclined in her chair, added her displeasure. "What happened? I thought my cells were being torn out. Then I must have blacked out." She sat up and felt her seat back rise up. "Are these seats like auto recliners?" "Well, I don't know about you two," James nodded at Casey and Heather, "but I feel like Sensei put me through the ringer." Casey's eyebrows came together as he looked at the others. "Let me get this straight, before I try to explain what I don't know. None of you saw what happened?" James cocked his head at his brother. "Other than some burst of light in front of us, then black, no." Heather gave it a moment's thought. "I kind of remember going through something like a waterfall of light." Layla's eyes fixated on the center display with the moon and nearby planet, her brow raised. "Did we go somewhere?" "Well, yes," said Casey, "we did go somewhere. But I'm not really sure where somewhere is. Remember that green-brown moon in the galaxy map? Well, I think we somehow came across the galaxy." Layla's forehead wrinkled further. "Are you saying we're on the other side of the galaxy?" Casey's head involuntarily nodded, while his eyes looked uncertain. "I didn't think it was possible, but yeah, it would seem so." "So let's just go back," replied Heather as she rubbed her head. Casey's hands clasped together. "I would." He paused for a couple of seconds. "Except for two things. First, I don't know how the ship did what it did. I can try to do it again, even though Heather said she didn't want to do it again." The corner of his mouth rose in a weak smile. "But I really don't know how, and it'd be pushing more buttons. And that's where the second problem is more of a concern. I have no idea where in the galaxy Earth is, except it's somewhere probably on that far side." Casey stood and moved toward the galaxy map that floated above the front console. "We're apparently here," he pointed at the green speck. "But there isn't a marker for where our home is, where we just came from. All we know is it's somewhere on the other side." Heather and Layla cautiously got up from their seats and walked to the center console. James remained seated, his fingers rubbing his temples. Heather studied the galaxy map. She played with zooming in and out of different sections. After a few minutes of silence and examining various star systems on the opposite side of the galaxy map, she surrendered. "Yeah, I don't know where Earth is. Without knowing more precise coordinates, we'll probably spend a lifetime looking and never find it." "But," started Casey, pointing to the map, "the ship kept a record of this location, so there must be a record in its data of where Earth is. If we can figure it out, we can get back. That's the challenge. How do we access it?" Heather looked at Casey. A knowing smile lifted the corners of her mouth. "To do that, we need to understand the ship's language." Casey nodded. "It's a good thing you've got a gift with languages. I'm guessing that moon is where the ship came from, and that's why it was marked on the map." "So," Layla said, head tilting as she glanced at Casey, "you think maybe we can get some answers down there?" "Wait a minute, back up," said James, his hands raised. "Casey, did you say you saw what happened, and none of us did?" Casey's cheeks flushed, and he nodded. Layla and Heather shook their heads. "I blacked out," admitted Layla, curious Heather asked. What did you see? Casey described the entering and passing through the distortion and how everyone seemed to be frozen. He related how he blacked out afterwards, woke up, checked things, and then ended up falling asleep. He did not mention the sensations he felt when touching the controls. Layla's eyes were intensely interested. That would have been so cool to see. How long were we out? Asked Heather. It doesn't seem like it took very long. And why didn't you black out like the rest of us? Added James. I'm not sure exactly, said Casey. But I did happen to glance at my watch before because I was hungry, which, by the way, my stomach is still growling, and I noticed it was 11:23. I didn't check the watch immediately after, but when I did, it was only 11:24. The trip was less than a minute, and it's nearly 6 p.m. now. That shouldn't be possible. Heather's face was somber. Her eyes shifted across the floating galaxy while she mentally digested Casey's words. Even if faster than light speed was possible, it still shouldn't be that fast. Completely theoretical space warp ideas would still take decades or at least years to go across the galaxy. A sigh of resignation escaped as she shifted her weight. It's interesting we all slept so long. Probably because of the stress and lack of sleep last night, suggested Layla. And now it's past dinner time, added James with a confirming glance at his watch, which is why I'm starving. Casey pulled out a couple of granola bars from his pack, along with a water bladder. Before we get on with any major plans and figuring out how to get back to Earth, I think our primary goal should be to find more water and hopefully some food. He broke the bars in half and passed them out. James and I don't have much. It's even less when divided among 4. James grabbed his small day pack from the floor and pulled out a water bladder. I totally agree. My water's getting low, as is the food. If we knew exactly how to get back to Earth and how long, maybe we could skip getting more water and food. But without knowing that, water and food are more important. Yeah, if I'd known we'd be heading across the galaxy, I would have put more in, said Casey. He handed the water bladder to Heather. Heather nodded her thanks, took the water, sipped through the bite valve. She took a second sip and passed the water to Layla. I'm just glad you two bring your packs almost everywhere. Her hands began to free her hair from its ponytail. After swallowing some water, Layla added, Me too. She examined the tube of the water bladder while she took another bite of her granola bar. Yeah, some habits die hard, said James. Dad and Mom both wanted us to always be ready to go. Yeah, especially Dad. A grin broke across Casey's face. But I never thought it would be to go to space. I'm curious, said Layla. In the tubes of your water bladders, are those inline filters? Yeah, said James with a short nod. Not really needed for the water that's in it right now, but just in case we have to get water from an unknown source, it's helpful to have. Might be good if we find water, said Layla. I know you guys don't understand, said Heather while she rubbed her fingers vigorously into and around her scalp, massaging hair roots and shaking her hair loose. But it's so nice to have a break from having my hair pulled back. She sat down in the chair behind Casey, her brown hair tousled and falling on her shoulders. The foursome savored the last few bites of granola bars and sipped of water. Casey stood, stretched his hands up, and took a step to the center console. After the space distortion thing, he pointed at the image of the hovering moon. When you guys were out, I had a look at some of the things in orbit. Just about everything is wreckage or debris. I didn't look at everything, but none of it was natural looking. There are a couple of red blips on the opposite side that aren't identified, and on the moon's surface there's only a single place identified. The images look like the place was attacked and destroyed ages ago. Casey touched the spot on the surface, and the side of the mountain jumped out into the expanded display. The image of a destroyed facility at the base of the cliffs appeared. I think this may be where the ship came from. Layla's dark brown eyes lifted slightly. Why do you think that? Mostly a guess. The location was already on the galaxy map, so to me it makes sense that if it's not a home base, then perhaps it was the last place the ship was at. Maybe I somehow clicked a return to home or back button. I don't know. But I think that facility might be a good place to start looking for answers. For what? An alien English alien dictionary, said Heather. That'd be nice, because without it, I'm not sure how we'll know an answer even if it bites us. Casey smiled. If there is, it's probably outdated. Mostly, it's a starting place. And if this is where the ship came from, maybe we can learn something. I think it's a good place to start looking for water, said James. Maybe food as well. There may not be anything edible, and we may not even know what edible looks like. But that facility was probably built near water or water supply, and that's more critical. Layla's attention shifted towards the map of the nearby moon and planet. What do you think those orbiting red spots are? No idea, said Casey, his head shaking slowly from side to side. If we catch up to them, maybe the ship's sensor can see them better. But I'm not sure if we want to catch up to one. James stood and stepped towards the console, staring intently at the ruins along the cliff edge. Something's bothering me. Why was that facility attacked? You're right, it looks like it happened a really long time ago, which could be when the ship left. Or maybe the ship left earlier. The vegetation around the scar marks haven't grown in much, but it looks fairly barren. So maybe things don't grow very fast. The real question is there anyone still living in the area? Casey nodded. I was wondering, if this ship can travel across the galaxy in seconds, and if this civilization has had this technology for hundreds of years, why aren't they spread across the galaxy? Are they just keeping a low profile and not wanting to spook us Earthlings? Maybe this was brand new technology, suggested Layla. Maybe someone took it out for a spin before it could be used. Interesting idea, said James, nodding. But if that's the case, why hasn't it been redeveloped since then? Judging by the destruction, mused Heather, maybe the research got destroyed. Maybe nobody really knew about the researcher's ship until the facility was destroyed and the ship lost, added Layla. Well, An audible alert interrupted Casey, and the room's light dropped to an ominous red hue. The forward 3D display materialized into a view of 7 planets and their star. Over the center, the display zoomed out to include the red planet, along with the fallen star, now a small blue dot, orbiting the moon on the planet-facing side. From around the red planet, 6 red dots of light crested the horizon. Red characters hovered near the new specks of light. Casey moved over and touched one of the red lights. A separate image popped out of the floating display. A glossy black ship came into view. The ship reminded Casey of a crab with its stout body, several small fin-like wings on the back, and 2 forward-sweeping wings arcing forward towards each other on the front. He touched the other red spots with alien glyphs floating nearby. One was an elongated oval shape that gave the general impression of a cigar, except with a round, flat, extended section that sat on the forward top section of the ship, much like the bridge of a cargo ship. 3 red diagonal lightning bolts were emblazoned on the side, just below the bridge. The remaining red lights were more crab ships. The ships were still just behind the planet's horizon. Casey bit his lower lip, released it, and said, I'm not sure how the ship can identify them behind the planet's horizon, but I think we're going to get some company if they see us. Layla's head was shaking slightly, and her voice quivered. They don't look friendly. No, agreed Casey. Those crabs don't look like they're coming to play. And if the red light is any indication, said James, our ship doesn't seem to identify them as friendly. Wait, Heather said. I thought we were cloaked. Said Casey, looking at the holographic image. I think the cloak is off. There was a purple glow around the 3D ship when it was on. I didn't notice it before, but I don't think it was on when we came out of the distortion. I'm not even sure if it was on when we went in. So, James hesitated. How do we get it back on? I wish I knew, said Casey's hand dropped onto the 2 dome controllers. If I remember right, it became an option after those guys fired at us on the temple. There's probably a way to turn it on before being attacked, but I don't know where or how. In the 3D display, the red huge ships crested the planet's horizon. A second later, their direction of travel diverted from planetary orbit towards the moon. Towards them. Casey fidgeted in his seat. I think they see us. The red glyphs morphed into new characters near each ship. How much time until they reached us? Asked Heather. An eyebrow rose, and Casey shook his head at the display. No clue. With Earth technology, it'd be at least a day or so to travel from planet to moon. I have no idea how far away they actually are. With their tech, it might be a few minutes or a few hours. But, he paused and watched the display for a few seconds. I'm guessing maybe 5 minutes. Do we have any weapons? Asked Layla. Sure, said James, pulling out the 9mm handgun. But I don't think it's very effective. End of chapter.